Good morning. Hi, it's me, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. Really early for me. I'm one of those, I don't think I've hardly slept much yet because I was still working for a bit last night. But how are you guys? We are here to be watching SpaceX launch another set of Starlink satellites. I think we've probably all seen a handful of these, but this is another one. They got to get that constellation going. So, all right. Let's see. Intro is too loud. Okay, I'll change that next time. Sorry about that, Armin. It also might be because I'm quieter this morning because I have not yet waken up. So here we go. If you want to know anything about upcoming rocket launches, what rocket's launching, where it's going, what it's doing, any questions that you probably have about upcoming launches, I've got you covered. Just go to everydayastronaut.com/prelaunch preview. And then this will give you a nice, tidy little rundown on upcoming missions. So this one in particular is Starlink 13. It's the 13th operational launch of Starlink satellites. So subject to liftoff at 8:25 UTC, or 8:25 local, sorry. By the way, I will be just absolutely messing something up that I'm going to say for sure and doing in the stream today. It's just too early. Even though I've got the biggest mug of coffee in the world, it's not going to do it for me. It's just not going to do it for me. Anyway, this is taking off in 23 minutes and 30 seconds, as you can tell by our launch clock over there in the top right corner of your screen. But yeah, this is the mission name, and what it is the Starlink version 1, number 13. But it's actually the 14th Starlink mission altogether, because they did do one, and even before this, it's kind of like the 14th and a 60th or something, and a 30th, because they did do a test before any of the operational ones. Then they did a full beta test of 60, and now this is their 13 launch of the non-beta one. So just in case you were confused, because I am too, launch provider SpaceX. This is a SpaceX launch. The customer SpaceX. This is a SpaceX mission. This is a SpaceX satellite that they're launching. This is their own Starlink satellites. The rocket for this is the Falcon 9, their venerable Falcon 9. That's a good word, right? Good word for 7 a.m., I think, at least. It's the Block 5 edition, which is all they're flying these days. This is 1051.6. So this is the 6th flight of this booster. And I think that's pretty awesome, right? And I'm being told to refresh the pre-launch preview here real quick. They might have had the website crew might have had a little fix to it. It has been refreshed now. Okay, so yeah, this is 10.51.6, sixth flight. This is taking off today from Launch Complex 39A, or LC-39A. And again, I know I say this every time, but just want to help drill it in. LC, if you see LC-39, that means it's Launch Complex. That means that's at Kennedy Space Center, the NASA Kennedy Space Center. If it says SLC, like SLC-40, SLC's 36, or we might say Slick, that would be at Cape Canaveral, which, even though they're both in the same strip of land, there is a little, they're just slightly, they're technically two different launch complexes. One is the Air Force Base / Space Force Base, and the other is NASA's ground. This is NASA's ground. The payload mass, 15,600 kilograms-ish, around 41,000 pounds for those of us metrically impaired. There are 60 of these 260 kilogram satellites, plus a dispenser, that the deployment unit. Where are these satellites going? They're eventually heading out to a 550 kilometer low Earth orbit. How is the weather? Weather is currently 70% go. As of, let's see, yesterday-ish. All right, 70% go for launch. They will be attempting to recover the first stage, and it will be 633 kilometers downrange on, of course, I Still Love You. The fairing recovery is expected. MsTree and MsChief are ready to support this mission. Those are the two fairing recovery vessels. So, yeah. These fairings are not new. Both fairing halves have flown twice before. So that is awesome. This is the third flight of these. Now, here's some fun facts here. 95th flight of a Falcon 9. They're coming up on 100. They'll probably break 100 this year. 44th reflight of a booster. So, again, they're closing that gap on half of their Falcon 9s ever launched have been reflown. Insane. This will be the 62nd booster landing. The 18th launch for SpaceX in 2020, pretty decent. The sixth flight of a booster, if that makes sense, is the second time that they're flying a booster for the sixth time. There we go. The 26th SpaceX launch from Launch Complex 39A. The 38th landing attempt on Of Course I Still Love You. The 12th successful landing in a row, knock on wood. The first time a booster has flown 4 times in a calendar year. So that's actually really impressive. The fastest turnaround between 5th and 6th flight at 72 days. The previous record was 76 days. The fastest turnaround of, I love that we're keeping track of all this stuff. This could be the fastest turnaround, though, of Launch Complex 39A, I believe, ever at 12 days. Not even for SpaceX, but Space Shuttle and Saturn V, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. At 12 days, 57 minutes, and 26 seconds. The previous record was 12 days, 4 hours, 28. I love it. You guys are kicking absolute butt. We have more info here if you guys need it, but I'm going to keep going here so you guys have... but this is written by Trevor Sesnick, so everyone say thank you, Trevor, for helping write this and for the whole team behind the website crew that handles all of these awesome facts for you guys. So if you guys like that stuff, be sure and go over to everydayastronaut.com. Before we keep going, I do want to see, I believe... we're going to have a feed up here from our friends at Cosmic Perspective. So let me see here if that is true. I'm going to check. They have a telescope feed up. I might have to transition. It might just be black for a little bit, but we also don't have we do not quite have the Starlink thing, and for some reason it's just showing up as this. So hopefully that's not just me. I don't know. So we might have to just rely on nothing right now, I guess. I'll keep an eye here for it, but meanwhile, why don't we go ahead and answer some of you guys' questions. First off, it looks like before I got on, oh, no, it is there. Rob Haver, thank you so much for the membership. Really appreciate that. How is everybody doing this morning? I'm really hoping that this thing goes off today so I don't have to wake up even earlier tomorrow. I need that coffee in me. Give me that coffee. All right, let's see here. What else do we have? We have from Musical Wolves. This is a question from Musical Wolves. Good morning from Yellowstone National Park. Sweet. How do you have good enough internet out there to stream? Will Earth's moon eventually float off towards Mars and orbit Mars? The answer is no. The way that orbits work, right, is they're bound to a gravitational body. They're basically... whatever gravitational body is pulling at them the most. So believe it or not, even though the sun is literally, what is it, like, is it 10,000 times larger than the moon? Or is it 100,000 times larger than the moon? However much larger, or the sun and the moon, even though the sun is massive and much bigger than Earth, 1,000 times bigger than Earth or whatever, even though it's bigger, the Earth is closer to the moon and has more gravitational pull on it than the sun has on the moon. So that's why the moon is stuck orbiting Earth. And it will continue to do that. There could be something that could drastically interrupt. It would take like a massive planet, like a weird exoplanet randomly flying through our solar system to disrupt its gravity, its gravitational field in order to at all move it, basically. You're not moving the moon. The moon does precess a little bit just from some other cosmic things that I do not understand at all. But in general, it's stuck around Earth, and it would never, for almost any perceivable reason, make it out to Mars, and definitely would not end up orbiting Mars. To orbit Mars, you'd have to have a way to end up getting captured by Mars. So even if you did get out into its, for some reason, I have no idea how this would happen. It wouldn't, but pretend that somehow the orbit raised and intercepted with where Mars is, or it raised its orbit altogether, it would still have to get captured into Mars orbit, which would take some kind of propulsive burn or something. So the moon is 400 times smaller than the sun. There we go. Thank you guys. That's not as small and big a difference as I thought. But yeah, it would not for almost any perceivable reason ever make it out there. But that is a good question. This is from Roberto. Says, would you go to the ISS if they gave you something to do there? I thank you for qualifying if they gave me something to do there, because that's the main reason why I wouldn't just want to go to the International Space Station. Because I just feel like I would have nothing to do and I would just hate to get in the way. I don't know. What about you guys? I don't know. Would you... I think if I had an actual cool task, or say someone pay me to like, hey, Tim, we are going to do this this art project or something, or we want you to make a YouTube video, or something, just documenting your journey, had some kind of reason to be up there and not just be getting in the way of science and the actual work being done. Don't forget, literally, like, the majority of the time the crew of up to 6 and soon up to 7 does on the International Space Station is literally just keeping it from breaking. They're just doing like constant maintenance on it because it is a machine, an intricate machine with many moving parts. They're basically just trying to keep that thing from breaking. So I just would not want to be in the way of that. And that'd be bad. I'm still trying to get my feed here from Cosmic Perspective, so I'm sorry if I'm kind of clicking around. There we go. We do have a live feed here from our friends at Cosmic Perspective. And I'll also keep my eyes open here. So we can confirm there is a rocket on the launch pad, my friends. Everyone say thank you to Mary, Liz, and Ryan Jelinski for getting up really early to provide us with a telescope feed. I think we will actually have a separate feed here with let me see if this one's up yet. Let's see. Let me make sure. Oh, here we go. And we have SpaceX coming online too. So we're getting somewhere, my friends. We are actually getting somewhere this morning. This is good. Okay. I was nervous that like their feed's not going to work. My feed's not going to work. We are doing fantastic. From Kluich in our Discord channel, a question from my 8-year-old son watching with me. Hey, how's it going, Kluich's son? How many times does SpaceX plan to launch Falcon 9 before retiring the vehicle as a whole? So as far as the whole Falcon 9, I don't know if we have a number of times, but it will become, as soon as Starship is actually moving and running and fully active, Falcon 9 will very, very, very quickly become antiquated. And it'll end up being retired almost immediately. Just by the nature of things, that's what's going to happen. It's going to end up being retired. Yeah. So and by my bet, I bet we won't see a Falcon 9 flying anymore by 2027 or 2028 maybe. For sure not by 2030, in my opinion. I would be shocked if we're still seeing Falcon 9 fly in 2030. And I would be also shocked if we see more than... If we saw 300 launches, I would be shocked. Because they are picking up pace. They will be flying, hopefully, probably more like 30, 40, 50 launches a year just in Starlink missions for the foreseeable future period. So, in 5 years, let's say they're doing 50, that's 250 more. So they might hit more than 350. They might end up with like 400. But I think they'll also start flying Starlink missions almost immediately on Starship because the economics of it. Even if they put the same 60 inside of a Starship, it will be cheaper to launch Starship than a Falcon 9 by a lot, by like almost an order of magnitude already. Because theoretically, if they get it all the kinks worked out, it should basically just be the cost of fuel, cost of personnel running the launch, and the cost of the launch pad. So yeah, who knows? Sorry here, guys. I am trying to check one thing. I'm trying to find the feed for Cosmic Perspective. I really hope we can get this figured out here because I do want to see. I'm going to do this for now, though, just so we don't miss something. I feel like that'd be a shame for SpaceX. So there we go. We have both feeds up now this morning. All right. How much am I going to... I'm going to mess something up this morning. I'm just telling you this now. But it will be fun to see. I'm glad that we have a live feed so we know that things are progressing. So, all right. Feed 1 and feed 2. All right. Let me double check my numbers here real quick. Because I am... Okay, so this one is showing up as feed 3, which is interesting. So that's why we have a very confusing naming scheme. Where what they have is considered feed 1 and 2 is probably different than what I have as feed 1 and feed 2. This is why we need Andrew. Andrew is unfortunately unable to work this morning, so it is all me trying to run this. and there's a lot more moving parts than there used to be. But we owe the increased quality because of Andrew. All right, so this is from PVK. Thank you so much. I don't know if I'd entirely enjoy drinking lox, as my esophagus and trachea would immediately turn into ice and it basically crack and I would die. Probably not ideal for me, and I won't drink lox, but I appreciate the. Also, lox, not to be pedantic, but lox does not ignite. It does not burn. I don't know. It oxidizes, I guess. I don't know what I'm saying this morning. It's too early. Easton says, Tim, he's the man. If he can't cover it, no one can. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Oh, that is funny. Mary Liz wants to know if so our back end here, do we want the telescope feed vertical or wide? I think we want that thing, go ahead and shoot it vertical, because I like once it clears the tower, it makes sense to go vertical. But we'll keep it on the wide one horizontal and telescope one vertical. Just in case. That's true. Lacklin KM says, I don't think anyone can drink lox. It's not just me. You're right. Unless you had I feel like there was a Simpsons episode where Homer drank candle wax or put it in his mouth so that a really spicy pepper would not affect him. And then he still ended up eating. Maybe I could line my esophagus with candle wax. Maybe that would work. No. From Brian Clausen. How's it going, Brian? Thank you so much. We must be a little sick in the head to get up so early to watch an overgrown firework lift silver stuff into the air. Gotta love it. Good morning, Tim. Thank you so much, Brian. I always appreciate seeing you here. And we also have a new membership here from Blucher. All right, guys. I am gonna go quiet once they start talking. This is from Rob saying, thanks for all that sleep you're missing, Chris. You are welcome. This is from Jesse, wants to know, about this shirt, the pointy end up flaming and down shirt. I'll tell you about it in a second.
18th, and you're looking at a live view of Falcon 9 as it awaits its 8:25 a.m. Eastern Time launch from Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center. Hello from SpaceX's headquarters in Hawthorne, California. My name is Andy Tran. I'm a production supervisor here at SpaceX. You're watching a live webcast of our 14th Starlink mission. It's also our 18th mission this year. To date, we've launched more than 750 Starlink satellites to orbit. Starlink is a constellation of satellites that can provide high-speed, low-latency internet all over the globe, particularly in remote areas where connectivity is limited or completely unavailable. Today, we will be performing 2 second stage burns and deploying our 60 Starlink satellites at approximately 1 hour into the mission. The 2 burns allow us to deploy our satellites into a circular orbit, which in turn helps them get to their final orbit much quicker. At T-minus 8 minutes and 20 seconds and counting, all systems are looking good for an on-time liftoff this morning. If we, for some reason, are not able to launch today, our next earliest opportunity will be on Tuesday morning. Now let's talk a little bit more about the vehicle. On screen is a flight-proven Falcon 9. The 2-stage Falcon 9 vehicle stands at 229 feet tall, or slightly taller than a 21-story building. It's equipped with 10 Merlin engines, 9 on the first stage and 1 on the second stage. The bottom 2/3 of the vehicle is the first stage. You can see that we have some residual soot markings left on there. That is a key indicator that this rocket has supported previous launches. The first stage's job is to accelerate the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere into space with the help of the 9 Merlin engines at the base of the rocket. For this particular booster, it will be flying for the 6th time today. Its first mission was in March of 2019 on our first commercial crew demonstration mission, and then again on RadarSat 3 months later. It also supported 3 Starlink missions this year, with the most recent being our 10th Starlink mission in August. We will also be attempting to recover the first stage on our drone ship. Of course, I Still Love You. There is a shot of it right there in the Atlantic Ocean.
Sorry, guys.
Our first stage is designed to be reflown 10 or more times with minimal refurbishment in between. And it's the 16th time we'll be flying a flight-proven booster this year, and the 44th time we're doing so to date. Moving on up the vehicle, on top of the first stage is the black carbon fiber inner stage. It houses pneumatic pushers that allow the first and second stage to separate during flight. Above the inner stage is the second stage, which has a single Merlin vacuum engine. We also refer to the Merlin vacuum engine as MVAC engine for short. Once the first and second stages separate about 2.5 minutes into the mission, the MVAC engine will ignite and carry the Starlink satellites into a circular orbit around the Earth. As for propellant, Falcon 9 has been loading propellant since the T-minus 35-minute mark. Our vehicle is a bipropellant vehicle, which means that we use two types of propellant, a fuel and an oxidizer. Our fuel is rocket-grade kerosene, also known as RP1, and our oxidizer is super-chilled liquid oxygen. We also refer to that as LOX. Currently, both RP1 and LOX are nearly fully loaded on both stages, and LOX will continue to be topped off right until the last minutes of the countdown. And lastly, at the very top of the rocket is a large nose cone. This carbon composite structure is called the satellite fairing. It houses the Starlink satellite and protects it until the vehicle is outside of the Earth's atmosphere, at which point the fairing will separate to expose the satellites to space. It's going to be the third flight for both of the fairing halves today. We will be attempting to recover them today using our recovery ships, MsTree and MsChief. There they are on screen right now. About 2 minutes before they're set to land, the team will make a go, no-go call to recover them depending on the weather and the sea states. Speaking of weather, we have nothing but blue skies on the East Coast. The vehicle and satellite and range are all looking good for an on-time liftoff just a few minutes from now. As we get ready for a public beta rollout before the end of the year, the Starlink team continues to test the system, collecting latency data and performing speed tests of the service. So far, the feedback from the private beta testers has been really promising. Initial results from these tests have shown super low latency and download speeds greater than 100 megabits per second. During our last webcast, we shared how emergency responders in Washington have been using Starlink to help rebuild communities destroyed by the wildfires. Today, we'd like to share one more example of how Starlink is helping another community in Washington. In August, the Starlink team began installing the first of several Starlinks on the Administrative Center building of the Hoh Indian Reservation, as well as on private homes on the tribal land. The Hoh are a Native American tribe living at the mouth of the Hoh River in western Washington state on the Pacific coast. This remote location had previously hindered access to high-speed broadband, but after the Starlinks were installed, the tribe went from practically no connectivity to high-speed internet overnight. Starlink has now enabled their community to access online healthcare, share their small business products online, and also participate in online schooling. They can also now stream their favorite shows and movies, which is always a plus.
Oh, that's awesome.
The response to Starlink has been overwhelmingly positive, so much so that the community is accelerating efforts to enable an additional 30-plus households with connectivity. We're super excited and definitely looking forward to more partnerships like this in the near future. If you're interested and would like to receive updates on Starlink news and service availability, please visit starlink.com. We're just over 3 minutes from liftoff, and Falcon 9 is now moving into the final stages of the countdown. Just a few seconds ago, the transporter director began to retract away from Falcon 9, and the first and second stages are both nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen.
One second, I'll figure this out.
We've also begun first stage engine chill. This is where we allow a small amount of super chilled liquid oxygen to flow into the Merlin engines to avoid any shocks to the system. At around the T-minus 2 minute mark, LOX should finish loading on the second stage, which will be the last of our propellant loading. And around the T-minus 60 second mark, Falcon 9 is in startup. This means that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers have taken over the launch countdown. The Starlink payload continues to be healthy. The Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on the rocket. Weather is also looking great, and the range is green for launch.
Yes, this is all the things that we like to hear. Sorry that I had the clock so messed up. I'm not used to running the clock while running the show, and I had to I was a minute off. My bad. Do we sync the clocks up like that so they can put on simulated telemetry? So we'll be able to show you what the first stage is doing as it re-enters. So we have to have those clocks.
You can start to see that we're venting the super chill liquid oxygen. In a few moments, we should start to see clouds formed around Falcon 9, and if we do, that is normal and completely expected for us. That is where the super chill liquid oxygen meets the ambient warmer air of Florida and starts to condense.
I should point out real quick that Mary Liz and Ryan's feed might look a little funny because they shoot in a log, so that is a really flat profile on the camera. It gives you more room to grade it later and insert. You have a lot more room to edit the image. So, yeah. But we need to do a thing real quick here. It does appear that the pointy end is up and the flamey end is down, my friends. Based on the two feeds we have here, I can definitely say that it is pointy end up, flamey end down. So we are just T-minus 1 minute away from liftoff. It is normal to see the water tower peeing its pants right now. It is literally filled to the brim to the point of overflowing. That is intentional. That's normal. We do see that a lot of times. Yes.
There's the launch director giving the final go for launch at T-minus 30 seconds and counting. All systems are go for launch. Let's listen in to terminal count and watch as Falcon 9 takes our 60 Starlink satellites into orbit.
Oh, baby. So like I said, we will also have this shot, but we'll start
T-minus 15 seconds.
This. Here we go. Yes, 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 yes. Everyone say thank you to Mary Liz and Ryan.
10,
from Cosmic Perspective.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition.
Yes.
And liftoff.
Yes.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Oh, look at that shot from Cosmic Perspective, dude. Go. Hope they find it again. Here we go. Wow.
Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center, carrying our Starlink payload to its targeted drop-off orbit. Moments ago, we've begun to throttle down our engines on the first stage in preparation for Max Q. Max Q is where the vehicle will experience the highest amount of aerodynamic pressure.
Wow.
Max Q.
And we've just passed Max Q. In a couple of minutes, we'll have 3 events happening back to back. First is main engine cutoff, also known as MECO. This is where all 9 Merlin engines on the first stage will shut down to slow the vehicle down in preparation for stage separation. Stage separation is where the first and second stage will separate from one another, with the first stage making its way back towards Earth for landing, while the second stage continues its journey with the third event, which is Second Engine Start 1, also known as SES-1. This is where the single engine on the second stage, our Merlin vacuum engine, lights up and will continue to propel the second stage along with the Starlink satellites to orbit.
For those of you wondering, yes, the right one did go earlier because we get a direct feed from...
We're about 25 seconds away from main engine cutoff.
Yep, it is.
Got
we have
some
a direct
really cool
ingest,
footage of Falcon 9.
and we have to pull from SpaceX's YouTube. Why does it look like there's only 3 engines running at this point? That's interesting. Oh, it's just the rocket. All right.
Stage separation confirmed.
All right. Everyone say thank you, Mary Liz and Ryan, from Cosmic Perspective, for their beautiful feed. Now, check this out, my friends. We do have...
All right. We had successful main engine cutoff, stage separation, and our second stage engine is now up on power on the right-hand side of your screen. Again, on the left-hand side of the screen is our first stage. It's going to make its way back to Earth to attempt landing for the 6th time on our drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean.
I know it's a little bit confusing, but that telemetry up in the top right is showing what's happening on the left screen. We haven't figured out exactly the best way to do that yet. Maybe we should put that telemetry like over on the left. Let me try that quick and see if it looks dumb.
Confirmed.
Good, stage separation confirmed.
And off goes those fairing halves, and now exposing the 60 Starlink satellites to space. As a reminder, we will be attempting to recover the fairing halves today using our recovery ships MsTree and MsChief. We'll make the call about 2 minutes before they land, depending on the weather and the sea states. We're just over T plus 4 minutes to flight, and as the second stage heads towards its targeted drop-off orbit, the first stage will execute 2 burns in order to make its way back towards Earth. The first stage is what you see on the left-hand side of your screen. The first is the entry burn, where 3 of the Merlin engines will reignite. This helps to slow the stage down as it re-enters the upper parts of the Earth's atmosphere. The second burn is the landing burn. This is a single-engine burn.
There we go. That first stage is coming down, by the way. Notice the altitude. It's starting to drop finally. So it was coasting up that whole time because, just because the engine's cut off, because it was going up, there's a lot of inertia going. So it continues to go up, and now it's beginning to fall back down. And you'll also notice the velocity increasing now since it's just basically like a roller coaster. When you get to the top of the hills when you're going the slowest, and then from that point on, you're falling. And that's exactly what's happening to the booster here. The booster is now falling, and it's speeding up, and it's lowering its altitude, which is super cool. We need to everyone thank Flight Club, Declan Murphy from flightclub.io for providing the simulated telemetry. It should be pretty accurate. It might be a little bit ahead of their feed by a couple seconds, but it should be pretty close.
We're sending 60 more up there to join the existing 750. So after today's mission, we'll have 800 Starlink satellites up there. The satellites will stay powered down until after stage separation, until after they separate from the second stage.
That is so cool. Now notice that some of you might notice that the vacuum engine is glowing red. That's because the nozzle extension, beyond that little snail-looking shiny thing that's at the top of that engine bell, beyond that, all that part that's kind of black sooty and then kind of glowing red, it is ablative. That metal is called niobium, and they don't run fuel through it like they do on the rest of the engine and on the entire nozzle of the sea level version of the Merlin engine. So this nozzle, because it's radiative, it's thin, it radiates the heat away. There is no air to directly conduct and help wick away heat, so it just radiates out into space, glowing red. But yeah, check this out here.
Burn startup.
Look at that velocity
Stage 1
drop.
FTS is saved.
3 Merlin engines have relit and are now slowing the first stage down before they hit the upper parts of the Earth's atmosphere. I have a few more seconds left on this burn.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
Awesome.
All right, the second burn will be happening about 90 seconds from now.
So watch how much the velocity is going to start dropping now that it's in the lower atmosphere. It's going to almost feel like it's slamming on the brakes. That's because the atmosphere is getting thicker and thicker for that booster. And you'll notice, look at that. Look at the velocity drop. This is free energy for them, basically, because the atmosphere now that they fought to get out of is now helping the booster slow down. They are not having to use retropropulsion or fuel anymore to slow the vehicle down. The atmosphere is doing the work for it. Notice that velocity just dropping like crazy. It is... as we're getting deeper, we're now getting down to airliner territory here. About 10 kilometers is where a jetliner would fly. So it's a decent, pretty thick atmosphere. Even though it's thin for us humans, it's getting pretty dense, and you can really see it doing a lot of work on that booster.
This final burn should last about 22 seconds. Let's see if we can land this first stage for the 6th time.
Yeah, baby. And so they do lose that feed during entry.
Burn.
Stage 1 landing burn. because of the plasma buildup. The uplink to
Terminal
satellites gets totally destroyed, or the downlink to ground satellites, ground stations. Here we go.
There's a view of our
Stage
drone
1
ship.
landing leg deploy.
Oh,
And
oh my
right
gosh.
down the middle, Falcon 9 has landed. This
Declan
particular booster
Murphy.
has landed for the 6th time. This marks our 62nd successful recovery of a Falcon 9 first stage, and the 32nd time we've landed on this particular drone ship. Of course, I still love you.
Did you see how perfect the telemetry was, the simulated telemetry?
Great way to start off a Sunday.
What?
So now for the second stage, we're waiting for second engine cutoff before entering a coast phase.
ECO confirmed. Expected loss of signal, Cape.
And great landing, too,
And
right on the
see that
bullseye.
we had second engine cutoff. Waiting for callouts of a good
Nominal
orbit.
insertion.
And we did get call out for a nominal insertion. Now the second stage is going to coast in this orbit for approximately the next 30 minutes. We're going to take a short break, but leave you with an animation that shows you where we're at in the coast phase. We'll see you back here at the T plus 43-minute mark for the relight of our second stage.
I didn't realize that I'm straight up like on top. He was just, yeah, I was blocking half the view. So we have a lot of questions to answer here for you guys. Yes, that was absolutely awesome. Real quick, Starship in our Discord wanted to know, does the F9 booster automatically detank after landing? Yes, immediately, basically. It begins to safe itself. It'll lower its pressure and detank. And that's a good thing because people will be near it. You know, there will be a tug that pulls that boat back into port. So it cannot be fully fueled and all of that stuff. Let me scoot over a little bit. I feel like I'm like, yeah. So, yeah, it begins its own safing process almost immediately. So, yeah, pretty fantastic in my opinion. So we've got a decent amount of ways to go here before crap. So, the last question we had was about the pointy end up, flaming end down shirt in the web store. I need to set up the coupon code for it. But let me do that. I might even take a quick little mini break so I can set up the coupon code so you can take 10% off of that today. But we are working on a international fulfillment that's going to be a lot better by the holiday season. It should... I had a goal of... It has to do 2 of 3 things. It needs to... At least 2 of these 3 things. It needs to be faster than like 2 weeks to a month, which is sometimes what currently happens because it will get stuck in customs. It has to have door-to-door tracking, which is something we don't have because as soon as it leaves the port in the United States, USPS and some of the other providers are just like, I don't know, it's in Los Angeles, even though it's sitting in a customs office in Brisbane. I don't know. Then there's and the other thing is cheaper. It needs to be freaking cheaper than the shirt. That's for sure. Shipping costs are insane right now. The pandemic has not helped shipping costs. But yeah, we will have this 10% off today by using coupon code LaunchDay. I'll get on that in a second. But don't forget, I forgot to mention this. We do have new tiny human stuff. So if you have a tiny human, a small human, or even a young human, we've got you covered with some really awesome new onesies and youth and toddler t-shirts too. So some of your favorites are in there. The Future Martian, the Full Flow, and even a F1 schematic for youth. So there you go. Your kids can be as nerdy as we are. But for the rest of you, you can just go to shop.everydayastronaut.com, click around. This definitely helps me continue to do what I do. Helps me pay Andrew, who helps make these web streams better. Helps me pay Cosmic Perspective for their hard work in providing telescope feeds. So yeah, if you like what we do here and you want to see more of it and want us to continually try to up our game, look at a stream from like 2 or 3 years ago. You're going to laugh at how bad it was or how basic. And now... thanks to you guys and thanks to your generous support and your tips and your questions and the Patreon support, we are able to continue to just step up the game constantly. That's what I'm all about. So let's see here. I'm going to kind of pull this back up. And yeah, and also if you want to join our awesome Discord channel, go to patreon.com/everydayastronaut. Where you can join access to our Discord. You can see me lose my mind continually. Right now I'm working on a video all about the Soviet-era rocket engines, trying to untangle the family tree of Soviet-era rocket engines. It is an absolute nightmare trying to untangle it. I think I did it. The script is done. It's in review. It's in peer review phase right now, making sure between Patreon members fact checking, but also I sent this one out to a couple actual, no offense to me or any of the people in my Discord, but to some subject matter experts as well. So this one is going to be nuts. The visuals on this are going to have to be next level because otherwise it's going to be an hour almost of me just screaming numbers and letters at you, and I don't think anyone wants that. Like the RD105 became the 0106, and then the 0107, then the 0108, and then the 0109 was single chamber, then the 0110 was quad chamber again. Like I don't think anyone wants a video like that. So it's going to have lots of graphics to keep everything straight, and then this family tree is going to be spreading out on screen for you guys so you can keep track of all the awesome engines that were developed in the freaking 1960s and 70s that are still some of the best engines in the world. So, yes, that will be fantastic. So stay tuned for that one. That one's going to be big. I'm actually going to leave the music up for you guys real quick, and I'm going to work on making sure that coupon code is live for you guys because I totally forgot to do that. Give me 1 second here. Sorry, guys. All right. Yeah, we will have that up. Discord, sorry, we will be doing... And music's loud. It's too early for me to do this, guys. I'm sorry. All right, let's get back to some questions. And Discord, yes, we will have those patches hopefully by the holidays. That is something we are still working on. I know it seems like there's a million things we're still working on because that is true. All right, so, oh, by the way, that coupon code is live now. Pointy end up, flaming and down. Coupon code launch day, 10% off. Thank you, guys. And thank you to Hellman as well. I really appreciate that. Black Hole YouTube 11. Moon is gradually raised due to boosting with tidal forces. Question is whether Moon or Mars will be around by time would lose it. Well, yes, but there's no way it would raise its orbit up to where Mars is. And yes, we're talking about like even on a cosmic scale to have a moon just randomly be deorbited by tidal forces. I don't think that's possible. Yeah. All right. David S. How's it going? It's funny, as much as I love Falcon 9, I can't wait for it to become obsolete. Absolutely. Good morning from St. Louis. St. Louis, thanks for getting up nice and early with me as well. Yeah, you're right. That's the crazy thing is as much as incredible as this rocket is, it's going to be completely obsolete. Basically the minute Starship is actually flying. And the cool thing is SpaceX will have plenty of their own rockets or own payloads to test it out and be be their own dummies internally. They can launch as many Starlink satellites as they want on Starship, and at worst goes to worst, they blow up some Starlink satellites, right? So that's kind of cool because they're not going to be risking other customers' payloads at first. So I think that's going to be really cool to see. And as soon as they have confidence in selling that service, yeah, it's going to be game changing. It will be absolutely game changing. From Amon Sand, do you think Starship will ever get the problem of the jumbo jet, i.e., not enough demand of high volume transport? Well, that's the cool thing, Amon, is that it doesn't matter. It will be cheaper to launch Starship, even though it's huge, even though it requires 5-10 times more fuel. It will be cheaper to launch by a lot, hopefully an order of magnitude. If the entire thing is reusable, and even if it still requires, let's say it requires as much for refurbishment as the Falcon 9, where the quickest turnaround, is still in the measured in months, basically, right? I don't think, they're planning to not have that be the case. They're planning to, the biggest issue right now with the Falcon 9 is the Merlin engine. That's one of the things that holds it back from true reusability. The Merlin engine's running on RP1, which is basically kerosene, has a byproduct of soot. There's a lot of soot generated, especially in the turbine, in the gas generator. So, there's a mini rocket engine in a rocket engine. That's actually the thing that powers the rocket engine. It's called the power pack or the turbo pumps. And they run that really fuel rich. So they run more fuel through that turbine than they run oxygen by a lot. They run enough fuel through it so it remains cool. Because pretend you ran the rocket engine at perfect stoichiometric ratio. It would be crazy hot. It'd be so hot it'd melt the entire pump, right? It would just obliterate it. So they had to run it cool enough, and in order to do that, you have to run it really fuel rich. And so by doing it fuel rich, you are also having a lot of unburnt carbon, and that creates these soot deposits throughout the turbine. It also creates soot deposits in the injectors just in general because it's RP1. And these things lead to it ends up being hard for refurbishment on the turbines. The actual blades of the turbine even start to receive like microfractures eventually. And they have to run like borescopes up in there and make sure everything is good to go before each launch. There is quite a refurbishment process, even today, on the Merlin engine and the Falcon 9. So Starship, on the other hand, running on methane and using full flow stage combustion. One of the cool things about full flow stage combustion, even though it's running at extremely high pressures, like double the amount of pressure inside the combustion chamber and inside the turbines as the Merlin engine, basically, because it's a lot colder, they are able to, that's what's cool about the full flow stage combustion cycles. All of the fuel is running through one turbine and one preburner. All of the oxidizers running through the other turbine, the other preburner. And therefore, those sections of engine are actually under a lot less the bad kind of stress. Metals can handle high pressure fine as long as they aren't melting, right? So under the right conditions, you can keep it all together very easily. So in theory, the full flow stage combustion cycle engine, the Raptor engine on Starship, should lead it to literally being able to land, fuel it back up, and go. And as long as everything's happy, as long as there's the sensors, everything was in normal operating condition, that engine should lead to rapid reusability. Without refurbishment or even without checkouts eventually. Literally, that's the idea. Someday they will land the booster per se, and then put a new tanker on top of it and launch it 90 minutes later. That's rapid turnaround, and that is hopefully what's going to happen with Starship. So, yeah, I've got a cool video coming up that I think you guys are going to like a lot, and yeah. Puffy Cheeks, thank you for your optimism, Tim. It's much appreciated and needed. I think 2020 has taught us all a lesson that, we can easily all wallow in sadness. We can easily all get drowned out in negative news, negative things. There's a lot of negativity and division in the world. And to me, this is the one thing that still is something to really look forward to, something to really cheer on and celebrate. And we can all do that together in unison, be cheering on and celebrating the same thing. That's one of the things that I love about spaceflight. That's one of the biggest things that I love about spaceflight is this is something that affects every human. I don't care where you live, what you do. You can be watching. There's people watching this right now in places that I've never been, places where I don't speak the language, places where I don't know anything about the culture per se, yet we're celebrating the same thing together. To me, that's just the coolest thing in the world. So yeah, how awesome is that? Team space 100%. So, of course. So thank you for saying hi. And Rob, thank you so much for becoming a member. Yeah, members, we're still working on a better, I've been talking to YouTube about this for almost a year now, a better tier integration so that it can match our Patreon tiers. But you guys will be getting sneak peeks and feedbackable sneak peeks of upcoming videos like the one about the Soviet rocket engine. So if you happen to be a member, get ready, because whenever we get that done, we will be shooting that either today or tomorrow, assuming that I get the rest of the feedback done. before I shoot. It's always best to get feedback on your lengthy video before before you shoot, because I'll be shooting this. They take a good 3 or 4 hours to shoot, so I don't want to have to redo that, of course. And my voice gets tired. So yeah, so I'll be shooting that, and then we're going to probably be editing on the road, most likely. Andrew's going to be joining me with a flight case that we built for Starship. We built a Go Pack to be able to produce shows as good as or better than this mobily. It is a full-blown like portable studio setup with all hardware based and backup redundancies, and it's pretty crazy. So we're going to be going down for Starship Hop. We decided to forego the static fire since that's coming up so imminently. So we're going to be shooting and then probably editing on the road. I'm going to be bringing down like a separate computer for Andrew to edit, because we will be co-editing in unison. So yeah, Kluich says, make sure your shirt is pressed this time. Yes. About that last video, the funniest thing is I watched it, because when you put clothes in the dryer, normally like it comes out unwrinkled, right? I got it out. I was like, oh, this is terrible. Threw a wet towel in the dryer, did the old dryer wet towel trick that, I don't know, maybe your mom taught you or something. And it looked better, but it still had a little bit of wrinkles. So I was like, okay, I'll go sit outside. At the time, it was like 90 degrees and super humid in Iowa. I literally sat there for like 30 minutes just trying to bake the wrinkles off and like pressing them. I don't have an iron, by the way, because, you know, what is that? So then I was like, oh, it's way better now. Totally thought it was fine. Started shooting, realized after the 3.5, 4 hour shoot, looking at the footage, that my shirt, the wrinkles showed up so bad on camera. So my apologies. I will not have that this time. I promise. I'll try not to, at least, or else I will cry. Tori says, thanks for the stream. Keep entertaining and educating us on space things. You are welcome, Tori. Yeah, I don't know if I have another choice in the world. I love to do this, and there's so much to learn. There's so much to keep learning. Let's see. Razenbot, how would you estimate the mass of minimal rocket capable to put a 1 kilogram payload into low Earth orbit? So Elon actually talked about this the other day, that rockets do not scale linearly. So you gain a lot of, not a lot, but it's not like if you have a 1 kilogram payload, it requires a 20,000 kilogram rocket. Like, there isn't quite a linear scale, because a lot of things don't shrink in scale. One of the things that you actually come up at the small level, say you have like nuts and bolts or fittings or pipes, is literally the actual, you know, you have to have a certain degree of what's that called? Like your range of how accurately the part is machined, right? You have to have a certain, you know, plus minus tolerance. There we go. Tolerance of parts. And at the small scale, right, you can have a tolerance of, say, whatever it is. I don't know, plus or minus. I'm making something up. Someone engineer out there is going to be laughing their butt off here. 0.001 millimeters or whatever. I don't know. 100th of a millimeter or 1,000th of a millimeter, something. You have a tolerance. As you shrink a rocket, those tolerances become a lot harder to match at scale. You know what I mean? So say you have a huge rocket, a tolerance of that same degree would be amazingly fine tolerance, or a really, that'd be like a really good tolerance, as opposed to shrinking it down. We're literally getting to the point where we're at the atomic scale, and even trying to produce things, manufacturing them, machining them at that tolerance becomes like almost impossible, or a lot more expensive to do so, and a lot more difficult. So literally scaling up a rocket, you gain efficiencies in tolerances, you gain efficiencies in the square cube law of the actual volume of the skin. So as you make the skin of the rocket twice as wide, so say you take a diameter of, let's say, 5 meters and expand that diameter of the rocket out to 10 meters, you actually gain some efficiencies, because the volume, internal volume of that cylinder has gone up by a cube of the diameter, while the skin has only gone up by the square, if that makes sense. So the circumference goes up by the square, while the area goes up by the cube. So you gain some efficiencies in rockets by scaling them up. And even like avionics, Elon was talking about in that interview with Robert Zubrin for the Mars Society, that, you know, even things like avionics, you can only scale down avionics so small. At some point, you still have hundreds of, you know, kilograms worth of avionics, or 100 kilograms. Who knows? We'll say it's 4 kilograms of avionics. You have to now fly that 4 kilograms of avionics into space. So to get 1 kilogram of workable payload, your avionic package is now 4 times heavier, is currently 4 times heavier than that, or whatever it is. It's not an insignificant amount. But on a large rocket, that becomes completely insignificant. 4 kilograms, like that's nothing on a mega rocket, right? So it goes to the point where it could be, it goes to the point where you're either, we're talking about something being 1/1000th, the actual payload mass versus 4 times the payload mass. So that's where some of those scales of efficiencies gain. That all said, I think it's somewhere, there is actually a tiny little, what is the smallest? Scott Manley has a video about the smallest rocket to ever fly and kind of poses that hypothetical question. It's, really good question, Razmbot. Thank you. Sorry that I went on a rant for forever. Fubo44 says, "Hi, Tim. Can you give a shout out to my special girl, Pang from Thailand? Hey, Pang from Thailand. Swatika, Kapkun Kap for hanging out with us. Yeah, there you go. PVK says, any Raptor vacuum engine development updates? Not really any updates. I did talk about this a decent amount on the podcast that I do each week, Our Ludicrous Future. If you can't spell ludicrous, don't worry, I can't either. You can go to olfpod.com. You'll get links to our YouTube channel here, also on your podcast players or whatever. olfpod.com. I talked about the vacuum Raptor a decent amount, I think last week or 2 weeks ago. Maybe even 3 weeks ago. I've talked about it a few times on there because it is definitely really cool. Last we knew, they've test fired it once. It went great. It survived. They braced the nozzle because the expansion ratio is over, I think it's 107-1, which is a really large expansion ratio to be able to operate at sea level. But you can also fire a large expansion nozzle like that at a higher expansion ratio if your chamber pressure is crazy high. So if you start off with doubling your chamber pressure, by the time that, if you have everything, all else things equal, by the time you get to your exit velocity, your exit pressure can be still near ambient pressure. Whereas opposed to, say you had something half, your exit pressure would be half of ambient pressure. And you can only have your exhaust velocity, your exit pressure be about 40% that of ambient pressure before you begin to get the atmosphere of the Earth at sea level, literally squeezing in on the exhaust, separating it from the walls of the nozzle. That's called flow separation. And it can be violent and random and jagged and destroy your nozzle. So, it survived even with a huge, massive expansion ratio. It hit a decent, I think it was like 375 specific impulse, something like that. They are aiming to get 380, 385 eventually, which would be fantastic. The vacuum Merlin engine is around 348 or 348, something like that. So it'd be a substantial upgrade compared to that, of course, which it should be because methane has more capability in that sense. And it also, full flow stage combustion is a lot better than the open cycle as well. So yeah, pretty fantastic. So we'll have to see. We won't have to see anymore, but that's about where it's at for now. Good question. Easton Manning wants to say, imagine going from no internet to high speed. It's almost a shame that they will never have to hear the robot cries of dial-up. Yes. I don't know if that's a shame, actually. You're right. I keep talking about how Starlink is like the same thing that happened. See how Africa's on screen. This is a perfect example of rural areas where a lot of the cell phone adoption rate, cell phones just completely leapfrogged landlines and telephones. So many people around the world, I'll bet you the number of people around the world currently living who just had never experienced a landline and went straight to a cell phone is like through the roof, because it's a lot easier for, say, a small rural village to stick a single cell phone tower and service thousands and thousands of people, the ability to have cell phone coverage compared to landlines. Landlines, you had to physically run infrastructure. It's the same exact thing with the internet here. So that's one of the things that Starlink is going to be doing is you don't have to lay that expensive pipe, especially fiber optic, to every single house around the world. You can have villages in the absolute middle of nowhere who have no market demand for a company to come in and run a fiber line 500 kilometers to serve 12 people or whatever, or 100 people high-speed internet. There is not demand for that. But by having a global internet constellation, people all around the world will have the same access to the internet that we do. And I say we by literally, if you're watching this right now, you obviously have high-speed internet. I dare you, without some glamping vacation, to just try and turn off all internet-based things for 1 week and see how well you do. See how well your life goes. It's unbelievably hard. You cannot even imagine how connected we are. Like, there's so many things that are connected that we take completely for granted. Every little thing. You will, within that week, I guarantee you'll stub your toe at some point, or like, have something your first instinct will be to Google it, and like, to not have that at your fingertips is so integrated into our lives. It's absurd. And providing people with that same access, that same freedom, that same wealth of knowledge will be truly game changing. I think a lot of people don't understand why Starlink matters, why it exists. And that's my mini rant. Music of Wolves. Would there be less scrubs due to recovery reasons if the fairing and boosters were orange and had fog lights, since it'd be easier to see? No, Music of Wolves, most of the time recovery efforts are just simply because the wind is so strong. The fairings in particular are very susceptible to wind because they're extremely lightweight. They have a large surface area. So they're basically like a giant wing with a parafoil on, a steerable parafoil on it. Really susceptible to wind. They are at the mercy of the wind big time. You also have sea state conditions where waves and things like that. So the booster, they'll scrub a landing not so much based on wind because the booster's coming in pretty quickly. It's pretty heavy. It's pretty dense. It's not as susceptible to the wind. It can even lean into the wind. We've seen that before. But the sea states, if the sea's going like this and the booster's gonna be landing on a deck that's just going crazy, then that's one of the things that they'll scrub for. So it's not so much visibility. Actually, it's GPS handled anyway. It has almost nothing to do with lighting or visibility. They could do it completely blind because it is all GPS and automation based. The parafoil and the boat go along the same GPS heading. They know each other's trajectory. And then same with the actual deck of the autonomous spaceport drone ship holds a GPS heading, and the booster just lands on that GPS heading, that GPS coordinate. So, yeah. Rob Speed says, grab yourself a coffee, contribution to Tim to stay on Earth Fund. Giraffe-astronaut can go in my place. Thank you so much, Rob, for understanding that some of us don't want to go to Mars. Like I said, I would consider going up into space casually at this point someday, but yeah, other than that, no, thank you. Thank you so much, Rob. John Beer, how are you doing, John? Gives me this is an emoji that does not show up very well in our system. But thank you very much, John Beer. I really appreciate all your generous tips that you always give. Thank you. Rich Baker says, great job. Thank you. We are constantly working on improving the live streams here. So I'm glad I didn't mess it up too much. I've only messed it up a few times today. That's pretty good for me. And John Beard again, thank you so much. I'm glad that you guys are here to watch. Well, hey, Felix, what about it? Coffee money for Tim. Well done, SpaceX. Everyone, say hello to Felix. Yes, a fantastic YouTuber. Felix and Marcus House and Tomorrow, TMRO, and Kevin and all of and NASA Spaceflight, of course, are my daily. That's what I just turn on at night. Like, I don't really watch TV. I'll go to bed and try to catch up on spaceflight news. So, yeah, that's my crew. I feel like that's my new family. It's just like, hey, I need to catch up on spaceflight stuff. And there's just an awesome community of people. Small Stars has been making really good stuff lately too. Awesome stuff. Billy Witt says, it is a bullseye. That is a bullseye. Absolutely. The other one too. Besides Felix, Matt Lown is making news videos now too, which I find awesome. And of course, Scott Manley. How can you forget Scott Manley? Andy A. Hi, Tim. Really love your channel. Do we have much information on the future of the Minotaur rocket? With many new competitors emerging, do you still think they have a niche or a niche, however you want to say it? So the Minotaur is basically solids on. It's basically an intercontinental ballistic missile. I think it'll still be around for those purposes, but as far as spaceflight, the demand is so low. It's so low. I don't really know why you'd fly on it at this point. Like, literally, I think to just even fly it is more expensive than a Falcon 9, and its payload capacity is like way less. So I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah. I'd be surprised. The open market and capitalism is definitely working out in spaceflight because it is a competitive place. Thank you so much from IIAs. Appreciate that. is from Jacob. Thanks for the webcast, Tim. Keep doing what you do. Well, thank you. I like I said, I have to, because I love this stuff. I love this stuff too much to not keep doing this. At least until humans walk on the moon again and or go to Mars. Like, I think that's I want to stick it out through that. That's yeah. Oh, that baby just. Did you guys see that? Hang on. They just showed the fairing just crashing through the net out of nowhere. Hold on. Oh, what did I do? Hang on. This is amazing. They just show a quick second of just crap. Looks like they broke the net. And then I'm sorry to laugh, but that is funny and sad. I just hope no one's hurt. Hopefully the equipment, they can recover from it, but it smashed through the net. It was nothing but net, that's for sure. That was a slam dunk here, but maybe too much of one. Broke the backboard on that one. Woo! Whoopsies. Let's catch back up to live. Oh, that's crazy. That is crazy. They caught it. They caught a big one. They caught a big fish and it broke its net. That is crazy. This is from Jamie Cole. Awesome. That landing telemetry could literally not have been better. I hope I'll own a rocket like Falcon 9 one day. Always here for your streams. Thanks, Tim. Thank you so much, Jamie. Yeah, that was, again, huge shout out to the team that's helping to make all this stuff possible, too. We got Cosmic Perspective providing you guys with those secondary feeds, which is awesome. It really helps you get a sense of, we know we can kind of see into the future based on their feeds. I made the mistake of looking at the SpaceX feed. I could have known that it was launching like 9 seconds earlier by just watching the feed. I had it on the wrong screen. And then, of course, we have Declan Murphy, who did all of the telemetry from flightclub.io. Just he has a yeet calculator, all of these awesome things. We'll be using him a lot, his website a lot, in an upcoming video. So get ready, Declan. And then lastly, of course, Andrew Taylor, who is doing a lot of the back end stuff now for these launches and live streams to help take it to the next level. So yeah, we've got an awesome crew here. So yeah, it's all, we're working on just constantly upping everything. I want this to be better every time. I'm like, I guess I take notes from SpaceX, because it's like, once you get something working good, now it's time to improve it. That's how I see things. From Daniel Yount says, keep the boosters roaring with flame and down on ignition. Absolutely. Thank you, Daniel. I'm glad that that's exactly what we saw today. This is from Pierce. Are fairings vacuum sealed? They are sealed-ish, but they actually have vents in them to keep it within bleeding at a certain rate. So as it ascends, it is bleeding out the atmospheric pressure until it gets to a vacuum, but it tries to do it there are peaks in there, like max Q, where the pressure wave would actually come in and could do damage. So there has to be certain peak values and certain drain rates of how quickly they allow the fairing to drain and vent, and eventually by the time it's in a vacuum, of course, it is negated. And it is in a vacuum. There are exact specifics in the payload users guide that SpaceX gives to customers. It'll tell them what their spacecraft needs to experience, how quickly it needs to handle what pressure loads and all of that stuff. It's written out to, like, it's an impressive degree, of course, because it is, after all, rocket science. So yeah, good question. Mike Kropp says, hey, Tim, what are your thoughts about using a modified version of the Cybertruck as a lunar rover? Also, good morning. Have some Starbucks. Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate that. That's 100% in the plans. Elon's even said that there will be a sealed Mars version for sure. That he says Cybertruck will be the vehicle on Mars, the vehicle choice on Mars. And I don't doubt it. It would work great on Mars, assuming the cabin is sealed and assuming they could just use that platform as a Mars rover. It makes a lot of sense as far as a rover goes, because obviously electric propulsion will work on Mars, where, of course, that is not an option. Internal combustion engine is not really a good option on Mars. You don't have oxygen to freely breathe in on the engine. Also, it's completely renewable. So on Mars, obviously, you don't want to have to try to set up a refinery and somehow make long chain hydrocarbons on a planet that doesn't have any dead dinosaurs. So it'd be very difficult to refuel a gasoline or diesel engine on the surface of Mars. So it makes sense for that purpose as well. And also even the exoskeleton of the Cybertruck makes it a lightweight option where you're not having a frame and then like a chassis and a separate cabin and then a separate, truck, the actual bed, all separate. So by integrating it all, it's stronger and can be lighter. So yeah, I think we will absolutely potentially see a variation of it as rovers in the future, as human movers. Thank you. How many Starlink satellites could Starship launch using lasers? What would be the lag time from Mars? Lag time is going to be the same no matter if it's lasers or radio waves. It's all light. Oh.
Mission. If you're just joining us, we had successful liftoff of Falcon 9 from Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center. We were able to recover our first stage on our drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean and successfully enter our first coast phase. We're now waiting on the relight of our second stage MVAC engine. That should occur in the next few seconds. This burn is a very short one, lasting just about 2 seconds.
Nice and quick burn. That'll raise its orbit. They might not have a video downlink, but oh well. Telemetry is key here.
Shortly after the burn, we'll wait for confirmation of a good orbit.
Restart ignition confirmed.
Yeah, baby. Quick transient. I'm going to listen for
You
a
just
good
saw on
orbital
screen. We did restart that Merlin engine.
Nominal orbit insertion.
Sweet.
And that's what we needed to hear, a good orbital insertion. Now the second stage is going to coast once again for the next 18 minutes or so. During this time, it will start to spin along its central axis, giving the Starlink satellites the momentum they need to space themselves out after deploying. We'll see you back here around the T+ 1 hour and 2 minute mark.
You heard it. All right. Boy, our mission clocks got off by quite a bit. That's probably my fault. How did that happen? We're like 12 seconds off now. Well, let me try this. I'm really bad at this. I probably went the wrong way. 53. Yeah, I went completely the wrong way. 30 now? I have no idea. I'm going to mess this up even more. Okay, 32-ish. I don't know. I still don't know. Just winging it, like everything in life went the wrong way again. 28. Sorry, I just want to kind of find the delay so our clocks are at least reasonably close to each other. Okay, one more time. This should be it. Boom. It totally changed on us, so that's weird. There we go. Good enough. So, okay, where were we? That was a really good question that we had. Okay, so Caver Eric, not Caver Eric. Caver Eric. So how many Starlinks can Starship launch? I think someone figured out volume-wise, it seems like you can launch about 240. You can basically do 4 stacks of them, at least, if I remember right. Does someone remember in Discord? Let us know. I think 240 was kind of the number that people are thinking they'll be able to do. And what they do is they'll chomp the nose up like this. They'll raise the payload deployment mechanism 45 degrees or so and launch them out that way. It will be a slightly different deployment mechanism, but yeah, at least 240 is what most people are thinking. Yeah. All right. Yeah, good question. Oh, as far as using lasers, would that be lag time from Mars? There will of course be lag time from Mars. It is just a matter of space time. No, a matter of the speed of light limitation. Like it is absolutely. So light is it radio wave? Light is a radio wave. So light travels at the same speed as radio waves. Radio waves travel at the same speed, or is it radio waves are light beams? I always get those two confused. But anyway, they travel at the same speed. So whether it's a laser link or just simply radio waves, they will travel through space at the same time. They're both in the electromagnetic spectrum. Thank you, Mr. White Shirt. yeah, so depending on where because the planets spin like this, basically, this is gonna be hard. Depending on where they're at, you can have a lag time from anywhere to about, the average is about 20 minutes, any time in those 26-month period. Both are electromagnetic radiation. There we go. But yeah, so you will not be able to reduce that lag time, but what you can do is you can provide full coverage on the surface of Mars. Because right now, uplinks and stuff like that are a little bit bound and determined by the different reconnaissance orbit, like the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter and a few other orbiters, to be able to easily transmit high-speed data from the surface of Mars to Earth. Otherwise, you have to use fairly low-gain antennas and more omnidirectional antennas to be able to beam stuff back to Earth. Because that requires a lot of power to send something to Earth in that way, it is a lot less data. You don't have as much bandwidth. So in order to transmit data from Mars, you cannot reduce. What I'm trying to say is you cannot reduce the latency. You can absolutely increase the bandwidth. You could have gigabit speeds between Earth and Mars, no problem, if you have the right infrastructure. Starlink might make something like that possible, or a variation of Starlink. But the latency will always be there of around 20 minutes, which is nuts to think about. Fantastic question here from Mukesh K. Says, why is venting of super chilled O2 oxygen required? Well, any liquid oxygen, the second it becomes liquid, you are now around, I believe the freezing or the boiling point of liquid oxygen is around, I think it's minus 187 degrees of Celsius. Obviously, ambient air is not. Nowhere on Earth are we minus 187 degrees. That is way too cold. So the ambient air temperature of whatever liquid oxygen is sitting in, it will warm up, unless you have pressure to seal and all these things that they do to keep things at cryogenic temperatures. It will warm up, right? So as soon as you pour liquid oxygen into a rocket and it's sitting out on the launch pad, it is warming up, and as it warms up, it does not want to. So whether it's super chilled or not, if it's liquid oxygen, it is warming up because it's by definition colder than minus 187 degrees or whatever it is. We'll say around, in SpaceX chills it to around minus 207 degrees, I believe. We'll just say, for the purposes of my explanation now, we'll just say minus 200 degrees Celsius. It's sitting there at minus 200 degrees Celsius. As it warms up from the ambient air, which is, we'll say 20 degrees Celsius, it boils off. It literally, just like water, like when you boil a pot of water, you know how powerful steam can be. Steam as water boils off and becomes steam, as it phase changes, it expands a lot. Liquid oxygen expands 1,000 times in volume. So as it boils off from liquid to oxygen, it expands 1,000 times. That same freaking little molecule just, So in order to have that not expand and explode the tanks of the rocket, they have to vent it out. Every rocket with cryogenic propellants that boil off like that will have valves that have to allow it to be ventable. Otherwise, it will explode. That's one of the good things. There's not many good things about hypergolic propellants, but that is a positive of hypergolics, is that they are happy at room temperature. They are still liquids at room temperature, and they're easy to work with in that sense. You don't have nearly as temperamental fluids, which is why you can sit them in a silo as an intercontinental ballistic missile. And hypergolic propellants, those are the ones that as soon as they come together, they ignite. They spontaneously ignite your fuel and your oxidizer. They can sit in the tanks of a rocket for years and years and years. And at the push of a button, you can fire up an engine and a rocket, and it will work, because they are happy at storable temperatures, at just regular old, temperature here. So so that's one of the good things about hypergolic engines. We talk about hypergolics a lot. Soviet Union kind of had a rift between Korolev and Glushko. Glushko ended up preferring to work in hypergolics. Korolev. There we go. Korolev. That's how you're supposed to pronounce it. I'm still trying to learn before I shoot this video. Korolev. I'm gonna absolutely mispronounce everything in this video. I can tell you this now. Korolev preferred liquid-based propellants, so Hydrolox and mostly Kerolox. And then there was one Hydrolox engine that he didn't get to develop. He actually only developed Kerolox engines and worked with Kuznetsov to make the famous NK-15, NK-33 variants. So yeah, yeah. So we talk about that a lot in this upcoming video. But really, anytime you're dealing with locks, any Keralocks, Hydrolocks, Methalox, especially Hydrolocks and Methalox, because now you're introducing 2 more cryogenic fuels. Keralox, so kerosene RP1, which runs on the Falcon 9, the RP1 is happy at room temperature. SpaceX does chill it down almost near freezing or around freezing or something like, freezing here on Earth, or like for water around 0 degrees or something like that. But it does, if you go too much colder, it begins to gel up, and that's bad. The engine will not function properly if they go too cold, but it does increase the performance ever so slightly. So of course SpaceX does that. But in general, RP1, like on a, say, an Atlas 5, will just be completely at room temperature, which is great. Nice and easy. But Methalox is, so methane, they make it liquid methane. So that is another cryogenic propellant. It's around the same temperature as liquid oxygen relatively, but then liquid hydrogen has to be like, I don't remember, it's like minus 300 something degrees Celsius or something super, minus 400. It is really, really, really cold. Yeah. Morphior, you're exactly right. I've been working a lot with Alex in our Discord about pronouncerating things correctly in Russian, because I know I'm gonna ruin it. I'm gonna mispronounce everything. Yeah. I've already been working on it. Koroliev. Andreas says, thanks so much for many episodes of Space Infotainment. You're welcome. I'm sorry that these videos take so long. I really am. I know I get a lot of pressure from people saying, I've even been called, to me, like, people say you're lazy for only making a video a month. I'm sorry. I'm working literally as much as I physically can. They just take this long. Like, I'm not trying to, put out a video as quickly as possible. Then you'd get a quick rushed video. I'm trying to do diligent research so that the information I'm teaching you is not wrong. And if you haven't noticed, my content tends to be evergreen. I want videos that are as relevant today as they were a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Of course, some things will change, but a lot of the things that especially this video about Soviet engineering, yeah, that's stuff that's hard to find. B, the history won't change. So I have to have the history right. This will be evergreen for the next 10 years, 20 years. Nothing will really change in the information that I'm finding and trying to untangle. So it's worth it to do it right. Like maybe that's the way I was raised. My dad always said, like, do it right the first time. And that has stuck with me when making videos. Like, I want to do it right. I'm not just going to rush something out there arbitrarily because I have pressure. Trust me, I want to make more videos. I watch my channel, after a couple weeks after a video, my channel is dying, and it's not fun to watch. It's not fun for me financially because, the YouTube algorithm just does not love that. And and that's why Patreon support is why I'm able to do this and make these videos better, is because, I put a lot of effort into making these videos. I want them to be the best that I can possibly make them. I want them to be better each time. I want to make each video better than the last video. I don't want to look back at a video I did a year or two ago and think that was the best thing I ever did. That would be a huge mistake. But yeah, so I think it's worth it. Yeah, I try not to be triggered by the people that are impatient and saying that I'm, you only make a video once a month. You're being lazy. It's like, good luck. You're free to go ahead, make short videos. You can start your own channel. If you think what I do is easy, go ahead. What's stopping you? Do it. Join me. Ask Felix. Ask anybody what it's like to do YouTube full time. It is hard. It is hard, but it's worth it. It's fun. I can't help it. Windjamma says, I love these great launches with my breakfast coffee. Great start to the day. I wish that this was a little bit later in the day. I tend to wake up about an hour and a half, 2 hours later than what I did this morning. So I would have really liked, if it was more on my normal time, I would have probably enjoyed my coffee a little bit more. Yeah. But thank you so much, Windjamma. From Angus Finch, greetings from Australia. Unfortunately, the shipping costs to Western Australia, I assume, are quite prohibitive for buying merch. So this is the only way of directly supporting you for now. Thank you. Well, don't worry, Angus. We are, like I said, we are working on that. We have a solution that should make it substantially better for international shipping that we're going to be launching hopefully before the holiday season. We are doing a massive revamp, a lot of new cool stuff, like a ton of new cool stuff, like drink holders, aka coffee cups and mugs and thermoses and all that type of stuff. New shirts, new secret new thing that I'll be telling Discord about. Lots of cool stuff. New moon lamps, bigger, cooler moon lamps than our old moon lamps. Lots of things are coming. Yeah. So and one of the things that we'll be improving should be shipping time, price, and tracking. Don't worry, all of those things. From Linus, it says Tim's Iron Fund. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, maybe I'll go buy an iron if it ends up being an issue again. Thank you though. This is from I'm probably from Mr. Anand. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your first name without butchering it, but thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate that. RH Trucking, wearing my everyday astronaut t-shirt, picking cranberries. Hopefully I can catch the launch. Thanks, Tim, for all you do. You're welcome. That is awesome that you're out picking cranberries, out there trucking, doing all the awesome stuff. I really appreciate that, RH Trucking. Thanks for saying hi. Emperor Billy Ritchie says, Tim, would you do a video on all the world's launch complexes and what makes them unique? Ooh, that's a good idea. At least current, well, even some past. That's a cool idea. I think, yeah, Discord reminded me to add that to my Trello board. I do like that idea. That'd be really fun. Paul from Norway, theories on the Starlink Mars constellation, sat size, constellation size. Sorry, yeah, so I kind of did end up going over that a decent amount. You don't need to provide global, because latency is not an issue. The reason that there's so many Starlink satellites for Earth is they want to be, well, two reasons they want to be in a low Earth orbit, really low Earth orbit, is for that latency speed. The closer they are to Earth, the lower the latency is here on Earth for, Earth to Earth places. And also, if they have a problem with the satellite, it will deorbit relatively quickly. Like within a month or two, it'll self-destruct. It'll slowly lose its orbit, which is a great thing. We do not want Kessler syndrome. But meanwhile, on Mars, you could literally just have 3, 4, 5 satellites that are just orbiting Mars purely for communication purposes, and easily provide all the coverage you need on the surface of Mars. That latency is going to exist no matter what. You're going to have terrible latency, so who cares? They could theoretically just send a dedicated, for now, like Falcon Heavy mission with Starlink satellites and do a constellation, and you'd even want to drop some satellites off in the space in between. Like you'd actually want to drop off some satellites as relays for when Mars is behind the sun. So they could do, like 6 satellites or something like that, two that are in pairs or something on Earth's orbit, to help make sure that you have communication, uplink and relay no matter what. But yeah, they could pretty easily do it with like a Falcon Heavy and a special kick stage and all that stuff. Yeah, it'd be really cool to see something like that happen for sure. So yeah, Alex Agason, sorry for not knowing how to say that. When are you and Uncle Dad gonna meet again and do today-ish in space history? Oh baby. Maybe once this pandemic thing's over, I would like to get back into that. I had just a ton of fun always doing that, and we'd have to see if he has time in his schedule. I don't know if you guys remember, we used to do a thing called Today-ish in Spaceflight History, where we recreated historical things in Kerbal Space Program, and I had my friend Jacob, we'd call him Uncle Dad / Jacob EQ for some reason. I have no idea why. Would sit next to me, he'd play music, and we just kind of nerd out together, and it was a ton of fun. And he knows nothing about space, like zero, so he'll just ask really fun and interesting questions that I didn't think a 40-year-old man would ever ask, and that's why we love it, though. It's just fantastic. So I would like to do that again for sure, and hopefully we could do that someday in the future. But although people didn't seem to love it, people did not seem to love it, which is a shame on them. Philip, thank you so much for the membership. James, contribution to Tim's shirt ironing fund. This is now the new thing, isn't it? This is now the new thing. Thank you. Paul from Norway, thanks for becoming a member. Really appreciate that. Fly with Jazza says, howdy from Australia. Love your content. When will Ollie Braun's scale models be available again? How much are they usually? Geek Shelf needs to be a thing in my life.
1 hour mark and coming up on the deployment of our 60 Starlink satellites. Thus far, we've seen successful liftoff, stage separation, first stage recovery on our drone ship, and 2 successful second engine starts. The second stage has been spinning along its central axis, giving the Starlink satellites the momentum they need to space themselves out after they deploy. Each of these satellites weighs approximately 260 kilograms and features a compact flat panel design that minimizes volume, allowing for a dense launch stack to take full advantage of Falcon 9's launch capabilities. Starlink satellites are also equipped with efficient ion thrusters powered by Krypton that enable the satellites to orbit raise, maneuver in space, and deorbit at the end of their useful life. Starlink is, in fact, the first Krypton-propelled spacecraft ever flown. And we're just a few seconds away from payload deploy, so let's listen in for the call out of payload deploy.
I think show us their tension rods again. You can barely see it rotating if you look at the limb of the Earth there. There's that tension rod. Bye-bye.
Starlink deploy confirmed.
Man, they're good at this.
Now you can see on screen these satellites are slowly separating from the second stage. Shortly they will deploy their solar arrays and over the next few weeks distance themselves from one another and use their onboard ion thrusters to make their way to their operational orbit.
Such a cool
That's a very
deployment.
cool shot. Quick update on fairing catches. It looks like we had a good catch on both fairing halves, but the corner of the net on MsTree didn't hold up and gave way. We didn't have any impacts to the recovery team personnel, so we'll bring them back and see if we can use them on a future flight. And with that, we'll be bringing our webcast to a close. Thank you to the Range and Federal Aviation Administration for supporting today's mission. Again, if you are interested in getting future news about our Starlink service, head on over to starlink.com and sign up for updates. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great rest of the Sunday, everyone.
Yay, they did it. Another flawless mission, basically, except for the hole that got punched in. Oh, the poor thing. Poor MsTree or whatever it was. I don't even remember. That's too bad. Okay, so anyway, let's finish up a few questions here. So, okay, as far as Ollie's stuff coming back, I don't really know where he's at with process. They are relatively expensive, like these large models. They're extremely high detail, like stupidly high detail, too good of detail in a sense. These are way higher fidelity than any of my other models by a landslide. They're incredible, but these ones I believe are in the hundreds of dollars at the 1/72nd scale or whatever. I wish all my rockets were to scale with each other. They are not at all. Like for instance, the Electron rocket here would be about the same size almost as the landing legs on a Falcon 9. So I wish they were to scale. They are not. But that's something you might have to just email Ollie at Buzz Space Models to see. Yeah. This is an interesting question. Peter, nothing happened to her. She did a live stream just like 2 months or 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago or something. I get that people were going nuts thinking that she got like fired from SpaceX or something. She did not get fired from SpaceX. I don't know why why that rumor started. The rumor started just because she did share a little bit of the Starlink receiver, the first shot we ever really got to see of it publicly. And then people thought that she got fired. That did not happen. She is back at it, and she is back to hosting. So nothing happened that we know of. From Own Hey, again, I see you all the time, Own Hey, but I just never know how to say this. No fossilized dinosaurs that we know of. That is true. That is true. We might get there and be able to drill down and find that there's mega dinosaurs. Maybe the whole planet's just like made out of, like, come to find out it's actually just 10 old dinosaurs that were hugging and then they fossilized, and that's what the whole planet is. It's a dumb idea. Boris says, Tim, thanks for a birthday present. Cedar Rapids, nice. Hey, neighbor. Can you comment on India's ISRO program and if you are interested to cover it someday? Of course. I have covered a few, maybe only one or two ISRO missions. And that is absolutely a video I plan to do, is kind of ISRO's history and why they are able to compete with some of the biggest players in the game. And even though they're doing it at a fraction of the cost. So absolutely. Absolutely. I'm very interested. ISRO does very impressive stuff. I mean, they have cryogenic engines already and everything. They know what they're doing. Pretty awesome stuff. And I can't wait for the Gaganyaan program when they start flying humans. That'll be awesome. From Spencer, How excited are you for Starship Series number 8? 18.2 kilometer hop. Oh, 18.2 now. I thought we were just at 15 kilometers. I have not heard this 18.2 number yet. Unbelievably excited. Like I said, I will be taking a team. Well, not a team. Well, I'll be with my team, kind of. It'll be, of course, Rachel and Jean from S Padre Isle. They will be down there helping us film, of course, as usual. But I will be down there. I will be going and quarantining and staying in my car. And then same with Andrew, the producer, will be out there, and we will be running an awesome live show for you guys with multiple camera feeds, everything that we need to make an awesome show. So very high quality, multiple redundancies. Hopefully we have something really good for you guys. So I am extremely excited, like beyond excited. Like I said, we're trying to get this Soviet rocket engine video shot. I'm hoping I don't have to be on the road until the end of the week. Who knows how long it'll take them to actually get the static fire done, and then who knows how long it'll take them to actually get the rest of the vehicle integrated, the nose cone, all the other things, and test it out before they go for it. But I'm guessing I'd be really excited if we saw that before the end of the month, which 13 days left in the month. It might be close. That might be happening awfully close to Halloween. So we'll see. From Hackman P says, thank you for taking your time. Want more 3-hour videos, even if it takes 1 or 2 months. So this is what's funny to me about the timeline of my videos. There have been 2-3 month gaps before in my videos, like in the past. Often. I've almost never, ever produced more than, I'll get the question like, Tim, are you okay? Where are you? It's been a month since you posted. I've only like ever posted 2 or 3 times in like more than once in a month, like 2 or 3 times, like ever. As not live, of course. Live videos, this stuff is kind of secondary to the edited and produced content. But like it always confuses me when people are like, Tim, where are you? It's been a month since you posted. And I'm always like, yeah, it's always a month since I've posted. My videos take that long, and they're done when they're done. This one took an extra week. I did take 1 full week off from work. A full week. I went out and hiked around in Moab, Utah, one of my absolute favorite places to be in the world. Just got a lot of hiking in, a lot of good nature, a lot of just serene, quiet time. And that was the first vacation I've taken in a year. So this video will be 1 week later than it would have been, or than any other video, I guess, would have been, because I took an entire week off, and it was fantastic, and it was much necessary, especially with all the crazy 2020 year. Not only, obviously, like this is always a grind. YouTube is always a grind. It's a nonstop thing, but even just the year in general with the stress of the pandemic and everything like that, and just a tumultuous year, it's necessary. I think everyone needs to go take some time out for themselves. If you haven't recently, there's a lot of weight on a lot of us right now, and it's important. It's an important, healthy thing to do, and an important thing for your own mental health, especially going out and seeing some nature. Moab is one of the most beautiful places on earth. So pro tip, there you go. John Beard, thank you again so much. I really appreciate that. And I always love seeing the GTR emblem up there. It's still one of my favorite cars. Still, I wish, yeah, my, Teslas have kind of ruined my love for the GTR, because now, like the Model S is so stinking fast and stuff like that. But I still, GTR is top 3 favorite petrol cars. I'll put it that way. Ben Sanford, thanks for all the great work, Tim. You are welcome, Ben Sanford. I appreciate that. Caleb Crow says, the closer we get to light speed travel, will we have to start worrying about light Doppler shifting into more harmful high energy radiation? And would it mean we could see the cosmic CMB, the cosmic something background? This is well beyond me. I am no astrophysicist at all. The only thing I know a decent amount about is I know a decent amount about rockets, and a little bit about I know a little bit about like orbital maneuvering, but I know almost nothing when it comes to anything of this nature. So I'm sorry, I have to defer. I don't even know what happens as far as Doppler shift when you're increasing your speed. I don't think we have to worry about it, because I don't think any human's ever going to exceed even 1% of the speed of light. Like, I just think there's such a hard limitation on what's physically capable and possible without us finding like loopholes, like literally like wormhole type of situations or something. I don't think I don't know the answer to that. Yeah. I don't know. Jonathan Alter, why not launch Falcon Heavy with more Starlinks than Falcon 9? So Jonathan, Falcon. So you need to think of Falcon Heavy as more as a way to tap into more of a market. So Falcon Heavy, although it's more reusable, it does not necessarily mean that it's cheaper per kilogram. Even in a lot of circumstances, it's not necessarily cheaper per kilogram. But the big reason too with Starlink is it is very much, it's almost volume limited in the fairing. So they can stack a few more on top of it. They are hitting the limits of the Falcon 9. But I'm guessing, especially since they're the customer, it's just more expensive to fly a Falcon Heavy. And the math just works out that it'd be more expensive to fly a refurbished Falcon Heavy per just the dollar per satellite flown is still cheaper on Falcon 9. The Falcon Heavy really exists just so you can fly things that Falcon Heavy can't. It's not necessarily because it's cheaper dollar per kilogram ever. Maybe there might be some cases where it is cheaper dollar per kilogram, maybe, than Falcon 9. But really, it's just opening up a new tier that was not even available. So, of course, customers, you open up the option of a lot more expensive payloads that would only be capable of flying on something like, like the Ariane 5 or the Delta IV Heavy, or a fully decked out Atlas 5, the 551. The 551 can outperform a regular Falcon 9 in a couple cases. So, that hopefully that answers that question. You're basically just trying to increase the overall performance and capability, but you're not necessarily trying to beat the dollar per kilogram when it comes to Falcon Heavy. So that kind of answers that. Morpher says Parker Solar Probe is going about 0.03% the speed of light, and that is the fastest object humans have ever moved so far. So I don't think 1% of light speed is impossible. For humans, I mean, think about what it would take, the amount of energy that it would take to go from 0.3 or 0.03% to 1% with chemical propulsion, even like nuclear propulsion or ion propulsion would be. I'm going to say that is basically impossible. I just can't imagine that we'd ever get anywhere near that amount of energy on a vehicle with people on it. And Jonathan also says, what would happen if on Starship's way to Mars, NASA found life with Perseverance? Would NASA instruct them to turn back to conserve it, and how? No, I think once you commit to humans on Mars, in order to get them home, you have to refuel on Mars. So unless they want to kill a crew because you're going to the cool thing about Perseverance is it will be preserving samples, right? That's one of the cool things. It has these little samples. It's going to screw them in. It's going to be these little sealed up things. So we know what the environment of Mars is like before humans ever get there. That's actually really important. Important, not important. Sorry. But as far as they're committing to it. Elon has again in that Mars Society talk he just did a few days ago, kind of mentioned that we don't necessarily need to worry so much about life on Mars, because if it's a horribly hostile environment, and there's almost no chance of what we would ever. I know that we care a lot about planetary protection, but if a planet is dead by all accounts, our microbes most likely, it'll take an extremophile to be able to even remotely survive on Mars. It's a pretty horrendous condition for life. Morpher is back to the speed of light and stuff. 33 times faster in the realm of spaceflight using the rocket equation is a 10,000 times larger rocket. It's chemical propulsion. Yes, maybe someday fusion, things like that. There might be some technologies that we unlock, but without some drastic increase in our understanding of how physics work and unless we can start to exploit gravity and handle gravity in a new way or something, I don't think we're ever going to get anywhere near 1%. But yeah. How's it going, Eric? Awesome. Looking forward to your SEAL number 8 coverage. Crazy. Yes, it is coming up. I believe this is Eric from Twitter who does some of the best renders. There is just some unbelievably talented artists out there on Twitter these days on the internet making beautiful renders. Eric, based on I recognize the avatar there. I believe that is Eric Space from Twitter. Let me see if I can find. Let me just look for this because, poopity poop. 1 second here. Eric Space. Yep, that looks the same to me. Eric does some of the, let me see here. Boop. Some of these gorgeous renders that you guys have all seen, I'm sure. There is just, I mean, Neopork and Casper Stanley. I mean, there are just incredible renders out there. I know I'm forgetting about 100 of the people that do really good work, but this is so cool. Yeah, definitely be sure, if you guys aren't following Eric ERCX Space on Twitter. Awesome stuff. And I'm excited for serial number 8 too. So yeah. Okay, with companies like, let's see, Tucker M. With companies like SpaceX, it's almost as if the gateway program / gateway station for the SLS missions seem a little redundant. What do you think? I agree. I think that it'd be, honestly, if Starship pans out the way they hope, literally send a Starship into near rectilinear halo orbit. Yeah, Starship will be, if Starship pans out the way that people hope it pans out, it will be absolutely game changing. You know, plans like Gateway will become obsolete relatively quickly. I mean, the International Space Station, you could basically launch a Starship and you'd have a bigger International Space Station. You know, that's all it takes. So yeah, it does. But there is still a lot of stuff to be proven. Don't forget, like Starship. No, you might notice that SpaceX gets less funding for things than a lot of other companies. The reason being, they are constantly chipping away at that impossible threshold. What a lot of traditional aerospace people would consider impossible, right? Where they're like, it's just not worth it. It's too high of risk. They'll take that and they'll be worried. So back in the day, if you were looking for funding to land a propulsive rocket when they were trying to land the Falcon 9, if they were trying to get funding for that for NASA, they did actually receive some funding for retropropulsion to study the fluid dynamics and the thermodynamics of reentry for a booster and hypersonic. It was the first time they'd done hypersonic retropropulsion. So there is a little bit of funding there, but you know, as far as like that, if you were relying, say that you were trying to sell NASA that we will only sell you reflown boosters when they were first trying to land a booster, they would have gone, no way. Like, you haven't proven that we're not going to invest in that because it's just too hard. We don't trust that you'll be able to do that. Nowadays, they fly on flown boosters all the time. They're going to be flying humans on flown boosters already. They definitely trust it. But SpaceX just continually does that. They're not happy with what they have. They're constantly, what Starship is as big of a leap or bigger leap than when SpaceX went from Falcon 1. They had only flown it successfully once, and then they ended up flying it one more time. But by the time they flew it successfully once, they used all of that funding basically and went straight to Falcon 9. People thought they were absolutely insane and were like, how could you possibly throw away Falcon 1 when it's just now flying so you can fly Falcon 9? Like, this is a monumental leap in vehicle. You don't even have a revenue stream yet with Falcon 1, and now you're going to Falcon 9. A lot of people thought they were never going to make it, but now look at the Falcon 9, and it's evolved so much. And Starship is a bigger jump even from that. So there's still people that do not believe they can make Starship happen. I'm in the camp that I have seen them do too many impossible things: recover fairings, reuse boosters, Falcon Heavy. Literally just one thing after another that was just literally impossible. Starlink, the whole Starlink, everything. You know, I've seen them do that enough to trust that they'll make Starship happen. Starship will happen. It might evolve more. We might continue to see it evolve, and by the time Starship's at the point of being like a Falcon 9, it might be almost nothing like what we see today. They're just working on making it work first, making it fly, and then iterating from there. So that's if Starship pans out the way SpaceX plans to see Starship pan out, then yes, absolutely, it will make almost everything else seem completely obsolete. Paul from Norway again. I am now a member of NASA Spaceflight and Everyday Astronaut. Go fun. That is awesome. I really appreciate that. Paul from Norway, thank you so much for your support. You're awesome. I really, really appreciate that. From Adolphe Trudeau says, Tim, where do we find your KSP live streams? So happy you took a week off. We so appreciate your work. So KSP live streams, I don't really do like a normal KSP live stream anymore. I'll do them for Patreon. That's what we tend to do most of the time when I do a Patreon live stream. Will just be KSP, just for fun. We just kind of hang out, and it's way more of just like the chill hangout time while I try to get off. I keep trying to do like a reusable Eve vehicle, and that is very difficult. Keeps me up at night. But yeah, that is where I still do Kerbal live streams these days, basically for that, just because I don't really have time. Live streaming takes a lot of time. If you're doing it a lot, it takes a lot of time, and I'd rather put that time into produce videos. I think my produced videos are why a lot of people. That's what I'm trying to do differently, is really dive into these subjects that I don't have good information on. If I don't have good information on it, it means it's hard to find. That's why the Soviet rocket engine video is like one of the hardest videos I've ever made, because that stuff is insanely confusing, and I just would rather invest in that and have that be a valuable tool for other people, a valuable thing to be able to lean on for other people to help their learning process out than a Kerbal stream. There are some of the best. There are people out there that are way better at Kerbal than me, that are way more entertaining. So I'll defer to them too. So, but yeah, as Padre Tim, don't forget your keys. Oh, I'm excited to see you guys. Yeah, it's gonna be fun, and I'll try not to forget my keys. Love you guys. I'm really excited to get down there. It's gonna be so wild. That hop, the 15-kilometer hop, I will lose my mind. Whether it blows up or lands, I don't know what will make me freak out more: seeing it smack into the ground and be a giant fireball, or seeing it do tail down, belly flop to tail down landing. I don't know what my reaction would be to either. I think both of them would be me screaming, losing my mind. I don't know which one I'd scream and lose my mind over more, but regardless, it'll be absolutely wild. That will be one event you absolutely have to have the little bell. I found out, by the way, according to YouTube, there's a thing that shows like how many, like for a new video, how many people were notified by the bell. Only 10% of you guys have the bell turned on. Make sure, sometimes it like accidentally gets turned off on YouTube. I've even had that happen where I'll be subscribed with the bell notification to make sure I get notified. And I'll go on the channel and be like, why am I unnotified? So make sure that your notification settings are on, because we're going to have things like the SN8 serial number, or serial number 8, SN8 static fire coming up. And those things we don't have times on. We don't know when I'm going to go live. So by having notifications, you know as soon as I know, because we basically just watch to see when it starts venting and fueling. And then we'll go live. So I don't publish a time. I can't give you that information in advance on Twitter. So just make sure you have the bell notification on, so that when we do things like that, and serial number 8 hop, live streams like this, and the occasional video, produced long form video that I produce, my mini documentaries as they pretty much are, make sure you have that bell on. Rockets for You says, hey Tim, I'm an aspiring model maker sharing my work on Twitter at Mommel11. Is it possible to send you a model in the near future? Yeah, I'll keep my eyes open on Twitter, and if I like what I'll see, I will reach out to you, and we'll see if we can add it to the collection. That's awesome. Good luck, and I can't wait to see what you got. And from John Beard, Mr. Musk connects the dots. In a beautiful picture, nobody else connects those same dots. He does pull. That's one of the things that I love about him being so involved at SpaceX and Tesla, is there's a lot of cross-pollination of ideas and technologies. SpaceX and Tesla will literally share the same stainless steel for Starship and Cybertruck that'll help bring manufacturing and metallurgy, however you say that, and production costs of that stainless steel down by mass producing it for both vehicles. Super smart. The battery technology, motors, a lot of things from Tesla is on the rockets. A lot of things that they've developed for the rockets is that technology, and even the metals and things like that are in Tesla cars. Really cool. That would not be happening if they had a CEO, another CEO. So, I think that's one of the coolest things in my opinion. So, yeah. Guys, that's going to do it for me. I'm going to get back to work and hopefully see if I have the feedback that I needed for that script, which I cannot wait to see. So if you guys, again, want to help support what I do and see more behind the scenes content, consider becoming a Patreon supporter by going to patreon.com/everydayastronaut. You can gain access to those live streams we're talking about, but also our awesome Discord. Hello, Discord. I love you guys. You guys are the best. And yeah, that all gets integrated automatically through Patreon. So patreon.com/everydayastronaut. That does help me continue to make everything better. And also, again, launch day coupon code. If you use coupon code launch day, all one word, lowercase, you can get 10% off the pointy end up, flamey end down long sleeve shirt. And while you're here, check out things like the new full flow stage combustion cycle hoodie. with lots of cool extra details, including some hidden ones, some hidden little Easter eggs as well. We got new keychains, the Future Martian shirt, which is one of my favorites because it has Arcadia Planatia on it, which is where Starship should be landing. It's its current Prime A candidate landing coordinates even. I think this is one of my favorite shirts ever. It even has on the side the actual gravity, atmosphere composition, all that stuff of Mars. Definitely check that out by going to shop.everydayastronaut.com. Yeah, that stuff helps support and will help me get my butt down to Boca Chica so I can cover serial number 8 for you guys. So yeah, hopefully you guys are having had a fantastic weekend and have a rest of the good Sunday if it's still Sunday for you. I think it is probably still Sunday for most people watching. But yeah, that's going to do it for me. I am Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, bringing space down to Earth for everyday people. Bye, everybody.